Yo, guys, this is Godswilla. We're back with another video, and today we're going to be completing the Spider-Man movies reviews for now until the next Spider-Man movie comes out next year. But we really don't know if it's coming out next year with this strike, but that's besides the point. Across the Spider-Verse. And just like Into the Spider-Verse, I had the pleasure of watching this in theaters. I watched it. It wasn't opening night. It wasn't opening night. It was a day after, but I still was able to get in and watch it. And boy, it was worth the money, man. This movie was so good. it I don't know how to explain it. It takes everything we loved about Into the Spider-Verse and just it doesn't it has the same vibe, but it adds stuff to it, if you get what I mean. It it does it does some new unique things that most movies don't do nowadays. And the animation style, this animation, what they used to animate these movies, dog. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I just don't know. This movie is perfect to me. There's there's obviously some glaring issues, and we will get to them. Don't worry, this isn't going to be completely positive. There's going to be a little bit of negativity, but it comes from a place of love because I love Spider-Man and I love the Spider-Man franchise. So it doesn't come out of a place of hate. It comes out of a place of love. Of love. But let's get into it. One thing you'll find different about this movie is that Gwen Stacy is now she's the co-lead with Miles. Where Into the Spider-Verse is mostly about Peter B. Parker and Miles. This time it's about Miles and Gwen. Gwen is the first thing you see, and Gwen's the last thing you see. Spoilers, sorry. Should have known that already. But Gwen Stacy has a more prominent role in this movie than she ever did in Into the Spider-Verse. And I like it. I like it. Uh, her story was less vague and Into the Spider-Verse. It was more fleshed out in this one. We get the opening with her recapping Into the Spider-Verse, and you get it from her perspective. And there's one main difference in this opening than Into the Spider-Verse. Gwen says she's not the only Spider-Man, where Peter Parker, Blondie Peter Parker, back at Into the Spider-Verse said he was the only Spider-Man, which we obviously know is just not true, but that's besides the point. Now, this isn't an issue I have with the movie. It's more just, I don't know how to say it. This movie focused on Miles' parents a lot. A decent bit. Way more than in the first one. Uh, it's they're teasing they're teasing Miles' dad potentially dying. So they're potentially teasing his dad dying because it's part of fate and it's part of being Spider-Man, is that you have to have a canon event. You have to have an event happen in your life that's so traumatic it shapes your whole Spider-Man life. With Peter Parker having his Uncle Ben die, and so on and so forth. Gwen having her Peter die, and so on. Miles having his uncle die. But the thing is, that isn't enough for the canon event gods. They've already taken so much from this boy, but it ain't enough. They're teasing Miles' dad dying in the canon event. Who is going to potentially kill Miles' dad, you're asking? Well, this is a villain that I had no idea about until I watched Across the Spider-Verse. Because I don't really, I read some of the comics. I'm mostly a movie guy. I'm not a comic book guy. But I love these movies. But there's this character called the Spot. He was in the animated TV series, and I don't know if he wasn't in the movie. He definitely wasn't in the movie, but he was in the animated TV series, and he was in some of the comics, I'm pretty sure. This dude literally has the ability to open portals from his skin and use it to his advantage. Now, on paper, that ability is fucking OP. The ability to basically teleport, essentially. But the thing is, most of the time, Spot is portrayed as a joke from what I've saw. And this is what this movie does. He starts out as a joke, as a villain of the week, and then he turns something into something sinister. Using the Collider. And what are my thoughts on the Spot? I like him. I thought he was just going to be a villain for just this movie because I saw screenshots of him and I thought, he's going to be a nice side villain for this movie. For the big bad that we're going to get in Beyond the Spider-Verse. But boy, we are wrong. This is the big bad. This one is the big bad. Yeah. The Spot is going to be the main villain of Beyond the Spider-Verse. But we also have a secondary antagonist, basically. A secondary antagonist. He's not really an antagonist. He just has flaws in the way he goes about things. I'm talking about Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. This man wants to go on about saying how Miles is an anomaly, how he isn't supposed to be Spider-Man. But, dude, compared to all these other Spider-Men, you're the anomaly, dude. You're the one that doesn't shoot webs like the other Spider-Man do. You're such a detachment from an average Spider-Man. Miles is pretty much a normal Spider-Man if you're comparing to Miguel. But maybe Miguel has just very bad insecure issues about being the anomaly. Because he knows he's the anomaly. Miguel O'Hara is the anomaly. That's my personal opinion. Because he's the only detachment, the departure from any normal Spider-Man. Everyone else is pretty much a normal Spider-Man. But that's besides the point. So before we get into the epic scene that I know y'all want me to talk about, let's talk about all the other Spider-Men we meet. We obviously re-meet Peter B. Parker, who's amazing as always. But we also meet. I don't know how to fucking say his name. I'm not. We meet Indian Peter Parker. I like him, yeah. It's funny how he pretty much saw what was going on with Miles and Gwen instantaneously. That was fucking hilarious. He sees what we see, obviously. And then we get Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk. Now, I knew about Spider-Punk before. I was like, I never really got into Spider-Punk, but this movie changed my mind. It seemed like everything this motherfucker did was planned and articulated. He's not a dumb motherfucker. He encouraged Miles to rebel against the Spider Society. He encouraged it. He encouraged the fuck out of it. There's a reason why Miguel was like saying Miguel doesn't really like Spider-Punk. But that's besides the point. Spider-Punk, we thought, oh, it's gonna be a crazy love triangle with Gwen, Miles, and Spider-Punk. We all thought that when we knew Spider-Punk was gonna be in the movie. But Spider-Punk immediately proves us wrong. He from instantaneous he was always behind Miles. When Miles disrupted a canon event, who was there cheering his ass on? Hobie Spider-Punk Brown. This dude. Now that I've told y'all about the new characters, let's talk about the scene. The canon event scene, the most important scene in the movie. Where Miguel O'Hara explains canon events to Miles. It's just something that connects every Spider-Man to each other. It's something that has to happen to every Spider-Man. It's the only similar thing that happens to every Spider-Man is this canon event of someone they love dearly dies. Whether that's your loved one that you're in love with, or it's a family member. Your so-called your Uncle Ben, who's pretty much your dad, or it doesn't matter. You have to have someone die. You have to have a traumatic experience. But the thing is, when Miles disrupted that canon event in Indian Spider-Man's world, he disrupted Indian Spider-Man's canon event. Which means he isn't going to get the because before that happened, this Spider-Man seemed so happy with life. No depression at all, no sadness. He loved being Spider-Man. He has joy putting on that mask and protecting people. But this canon event was supposed to change that. But Miles, the anomaly, changed it. But Miguel O'Hara unfortunately tells Miles the news that his father is going to die. And Miguel O'Hara basically just tells Miles, you're just going to have to let it happen because it's your canon event, dude. Miles obviously going to say fucking no. He's not going to allow his father to die. He's going to at least fucking try to save his father's life if his father is in danger, because Miles actually fucking loves his dad. You expect Miles just to accept it. Just accept it. Yep, my dad's going to die. Yep, I'm just going to accept it. No. They have to trap him. But who encourages him? Who teaches him how to use his electric powers? Hobie fucking Brown. Using the palms, Miles does. He breaks out, runs away, orchestrates an escape, gets every spider person in the Spider Society, including Spider-Man PS4, to go after him. And this is where we find out why Gwen or Peter B. Parker never visited Miles after all the Spider Society stuff happened. It's because they didn't know how to tell him that his father was going to die. Because they knew this way before. Miles feeling very betrayed that they knew about it and didn't tell him. He does his own thing, as he says. He doesn't want his story to be predetermined. He wants to carve out his own story. So, by outsmarting every Spider-Man in existence, basically, my man leads them all on this thing, and he goes back to the teleportation thing where you can teleport to the dimensions. But there's just one issue. It doesn't teleport to the dimension that you are from. It teleports to the dimension where that spider bit you. Were you guys wondering? I was wondering why in Into the Spider-Verse the spider that bit Miles was glitching out. It was a weird spider. It was glitching out like how Peter B. Parker and Gwen Stacy was in the others were glitching out in the first one. They were glitching out the same way. I'm like, this spider is not from this dimension. And it had a big 42 on it. And we find out what that 42 meant. Earth 42. You see, the Spot created Miles that we know. Spot took a spider from Earth 42 and put it into Earth 1610. Therefore, it bit the wrong Miles. I think y'all see where I'm getting at here. Because the Miles in Earth 42 was supposed to be the Spider-Man of that universe. And the Miles that we know was supposed to become the Prowler. Or the second, or the successor to his uncle's Prowler. He was supposed to become the Prowler in some way, shape, or fashion. But Spot disrupted a canon event. And now we have the Miles we know. So, guess where Miles gets sent to when he wants to go back? He gets teleported to Earth 42. Where he tells his mom, you notice something's up when the animation style looks different. You can just tell it's not the same world. Because we've been there for in the first part of the movie. We know what it looks like. We know the vibe of Miles' world. So we knew something was up from the get-go. At least I did. I don't know about y'all, but I knew something was up. Then he talks to his mom, and Miles, he finally does it. He reveals to his parents that he's Spider-Man, and you have Gwen Stacy outside. You're thinking that she's listening to Miles talk to his mom, but she really isn't, though. But that's a nice trick. But the thing what's confusing is Miles' mom doesn't react. She's like, Are you just playing dress up or whatever? Because the thing is, Spider-Man doesn't exist in this world, so they have so Rio has no idea what Miles is talking about. That's crazy. But then we see a door open. It's Aaron Davis. Alive, not dead, and well. Miles instinctively gives him a hug. Aaron Davis mentions how his hair looks different. That should have been a big clue. Even though you should obviously know he's in the wrong universe if Aaron Davis is alive, because we know he's dead in Miles' universe. So, Aaron Davis of Earth 42 leads our Miles to a trap. Miles wakes up, tied up the same way he tied up Peter B. Parker and Into the Spider-Verse. I like that callback. It was a good callback. Aaron Davis is walking around. Miles is scared for his life. He's trying to convince his alternate dimension uncle to let him go. But then he turns him around. And we're thinking, wait a minute, isn't Aaron Davis the Prowler? But then a figure from up top jumps down. It asks Miles about his father. Yes. And then Miles asks, who are you? He reveals himself to be Earth 42 Miles. Earth 42 Miles becomes the Prowler. The fate that should have happened to our Miles. But since Spot disrupted the canon event of that Miles getting bit, he became the Prowler instead. And we figure out, this and Earth 42's Miles' dad is dead. So that's why it pretty much was swapped, basically. But Miles tries to convince Prowler Miles that their dad's gonna die, but Prowler Miles is like, nah, your dad, not my dad. My dad already dead. You see, but what I find weird is, why isn't Miles freaking out here? He seems calm as spider senses are going off for danger, which leads me to believe Miles is somehow going to make Prowler Miles become good. It's going to happen in Beyond the Spider-Verse. I guarantee it. But then Gwen gets the whole gang together. Gwen starts her own band. They're going to save Miles. You got everybody. You got Indy and Peter Parker. You got Hobie Brown. You got Peter B. You got all the Spider people from Into the Spider-Verse. You pretty much got all the new friends. And that's how the movie ends. To be continued. Waiting 5 years for a to be continued, I admit, it's kind of frustrating that we had to wait 5 years for this shit. But the bright side is, they're trying to release the movie the next year. So we're not going to have to wait another 5 years. Thank Christ. This movie was just, it was an adventure. People will say it's filler. Is it filler? Most middle chapters are, but it does set up a lot of plot stuff that you will need for Beyond. So you can't just go to Into the Spider-Verse and then skip across to get to Beyond, because you're going to miss a lot of shit. So no, I will not say it's filler. Unlike Halloween Kills! But no, that's besides the point. Halloween Kills, we're going to get to that later. We're going to get to that again later. Later in October. Yeah. That's essentially it. That's Across the Spider-Verse in a nutshell. Obviously, I didn't do a play-for-play of every scene, because I used to do that, and it gets outdated and repetitive. So I decided to review the movie differently. Like, pick out the most important spots and explain it. That's what I decided to do. Yeah, I bet you're wondering what my final rating for Across the Spider-Verse is. It's a 9.5 out of 10. It's near perfect, but the flaws are very hard to ignore. But I love this movie. Is it my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time? No. But is it one of the GOATs? Yeah. Definitely, 100%. Uh, the reason I wanted to make sure I wasn't you. The reason why I waited so long to reveal this movie, like almost 4 months later, almost 4 months later, 3.5, 4 months later, I wanted to make sure when I was talking about the movie, I wasn't using recency bias, because that's a very real thing. Some people try to deny it, but it is actually a thing. But no, I rewatched this movie when it came out on DVD, and everything I loved about it when I watched it in theaters, it remained the same. Will it will it change? Will my opinion change the movie? Maybe, I don't know. You never know. You could really like something in your childhood and really hate it now, but but that's besides the point. My, Across Spider Verse is a good movie. Uh, See you guys in October when I re-review the Halloween franchise. I'll see you guys there.